I want to bring on the great Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Where's the book? Why didn't we have the book up here like we did yesterday? He's a premier like astrophysicist. I love the guy. There it is. Cosmic Queries, Neil deGrasse Tyson. What a great topic and subject this is. A bold subject, by the way. It asks some of the eternal questions. Neil, where is it? There he is. Hi, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, rejoining us again. How are you, sir?
Dude, you got a beer for me? You were just sharing a beer. I
wish we were at a time in history where you could be in here. Yes, exactly. I would imagine you have a Sub-Zero fridge with a few beers in it. I could imagine that. I could see that.
Well, you think I'm a Sub-Zero kind of guy? That's what you're saying.
You seem like the Sub-Zero fridge kind of guy. Certain houses have Sub-Zero fridges. I would think yours does. Neil, the book, amazing. Cosmic Queries, Star Talk's guide to who we are, how we got here, and where we're going. A little bold, a little ambitious, the eternal question, if you will. How are you handling this? Because I've always talked about Neil as being a guy that can speak to the layman. A lot of times when we're talking about things like dark space, astrophysics, quantum physics, it's very difficult to wrap your mind around it. You've always been very good at translating that to the common people that might not have that type of education or knowledge. How do you decide that you're going to tell people about who and what we are and where we're going?
Okay, so first of all, excuse me. So first of all, this is not a book that I conceived and are force-feeding to the public. These are actual questions that actual people, humans in our species, have been asking for millennia. So the tables are a little bit turned. It's okay. I will respect your depths of curiosity and wonder, and I will do the best I can with the science that we know to address those questions. Some of the questions we have good answers for. Others, the answers are a little bit incomplete. We got top people working on it. And some questions, we don't even know if it's the right question. And so that's what this offering is. Cosmic Queries. How did it all get here? How did it come to be what it is? Is there life elsewhere in the universe? How did it all begin? How will it all end? These are the deepest questions. And yeah, not all of them have tidy answers.
Yeah, these are the questions that keep some people up at night, get them anxious. Because, as humans, we do like to know things. We want to know. We like even movies, something as simple as movies or television shows. We like a tidy package at the end. We like knowing that everything's wrapped up. And these questions, some of them are answerable, but some of these other ones, the most profound of questions, are very difficult and don't have a solid answer. And I think us as humans are disturbed by that. Where do you think that comes from?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Of course it is.
So children ask questions all the time, and if you don't have an answer, they'll investigate on their own. They'll overturn the rock, climb the tree, and if they're too young, half of what feeds their curiosity might actually kill them. So parents spend a lot of time making sure their kids don't die, right? Wall sockets are eye level to a crawling child, right? And what's a bobby pin or paper clip and a wall socket?
We've all done that, I think, yeah.
Fortunately, that kills even doing that will kill many fewer people than you think because it short circuits the thing. But the point is, I think parents overprotect their kids because, there's some things you don't want them to play with the knives. I get that. But when they crawl into the kitchen and pull out the pots and pans and start banging on them, what's the first thing you say? You say, no, stop making the noise. You're getting the pans dirty. And what you've done there is squashed an experiment in acoustics that the child is performing.
Right.
So
this is loud.
All I'm saying is that for children are born curious. And when you combine curiosity and wonder, you are feeding the urge to explore. So watch what happens as we get older and you pass through, I guess, middle school. Hormones start competing with other priorities you might have had as a child. And then all of a sudden, your curiosity goes away. But you still might want some answers. But now you're no longer invoking your curiosity to find out. And someone hands you an answer. You having a bad day? Oh, Mercury was in retrograde. All right, there you go. Okay. What happens when I die? Oh, you're in heaven. All right. So you got
quick,
the
easy
answers,
answer, right?
Our comfort level returns when that happens.
Isn't it something? Now, do you think that during those years between when you're born and you do have that experimentation and wonder, and is that something that's more ROM memory? Is that an ingrained thing in our person that will up to a certain point, and then it, like you said, hormones kick in and it kind of cuts off and we do other things. But it's so important for a human to learn that in those early years. Is that an instinctual thing, like watching a kitten know how to do this crap?
Important question. And I think,
of course,
I'm not quick to say what's instinct and what's genetic or whatever, but I can just share with you the observation that practically every child you've ever been around is exploring their own environment, and they got questions for the grown-ups. And that is so, I don't want to call it universal, because when I say that word, I mean the actual universe. It's so earth-wide, cross-cultural, like Miss Universe.
Yes.
Is that really the person? Did you check on Mars?
We are now,
really?
Which is great. Maybe the Perseverance will find the next Miss Universe, or at least Miss Solar System.
So that level of curiosity with children, and the fact that children play, they'll play in a sandbox, they'll play in a pile of blocks. The playing is, for me, I just look at it differently. I look at it as experimentation. And so, okay, let's say it's genetic. Let me just say that.
Sure.
It's inherent in the species that as children we are curious. Now, I declare now that if you retain that curiosity into adulthood, that curiosity and especially the wonder.
Yeah.
If you can retain it to adulthood, we have a word for you. You're called a scientist.
A scientist. Yes, the amazement of new discoveries and watching technology take another leap, which I think we've seen in the past little more than a decade, a couple of decades. We've seen a technological advancement with AI. We've gone from, I remember 20 years ago or so, watching one of the Mars Rovers touch down, not watching, but listening to Mission Control at maybe 11 minutes later. Listening to a giant balloon of airbags dropping this thing on Mars, and it literally bouncing for a while, where they hoped it would land somewhere that wasn't a crater or a rock. One of them did have trouble getting off the ramp because it kind of got tangled up in the airbag. And now, only a couple of decades later, we watch a delivery precisely where they wanted it put. And this thing worked autonomously from the time they cut off communication a few minutes before the touchdown till it touched down. This is the sign. When we look and don't see flying cars, I still get a little annoyed, Neil. But we're seeing this advancement in technology and the way for these machines to be more autonomous than we've ever seen before. And I think we're getting a lot out of that.
A couple of things. First,
it's a great statement.
Not because it can be, but because it has to be. Because of the time delay between signals between Earth and Mars.
Right.
And so you can't say, look out for the cliff. Okay, 20 minutes later it gets the instructions. Too late.
Yeah.
So the autonomy is a necessary element of the mission. That's my first point. Second, it's great that you remember the earlier rovers, because that was a really low budget way to land.
Yes. They literally bounced it on Mars until it stopped and then opened it up, hoping it was going to be okay, like shake and bake.
Yeah, so it was airbags. Airbag technology, we've got that, right? And so, but what turned out, when you want to send a bigger rover, that it doesn't respond as well to an airbag technology. And then the engineers got in and said, all right, we can do a joist, we do the drogue chutes, the lower it, they have a crane, and it looked kind of very Rube Goldbergian.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was worried the first time I saw that.
A lot that has to work.
Yeah, yeah. So so it worked. The engineers nailed
Amazing.
it. And I will say, because we were coming off of this from talking about children, you saw Mission Control when we had the images and this thing landed. People, they were jumping up and down like children.
Yes.
In the playground.
Finding something new, exploring, seeing success, seeing something that they worked at actually do what it was supposed to do is very good. And being in this line of people that you talked about, scientists, people that love the unknown, the discovery, and knowing that you have a place in that history now is an amazing thing, I think, and it is something to be very proud of.
Well, it's. I mean, we're all participants. I mean, it's your tax money that pays NASA to then do this. And by the way, when we say pay NASA, they're scientists, engineers, technicians. I mean, their families, their townships. You know, NASA is scattered into 10 different locations across the country, each with different roles and different kinds of missions. So NASA is not just they, NASA is we. And that's how I think about it.
Yeah, and it's something for all of us.
By the
to
way,
be proud of.
Have we ever talked about flying cars? Did we ever?
We might have in the past. I don't recall it. We go through so many topics when we talk, Neil,
Okay,
and I love it.
Make sure before we're done here, I just want to put you at ease about flying cars.
Okay. I've always said this. I think as humans, we are not capable of that X or that ZY axis yet. I think we have enough trouble in 2 dimensions without having to add that third vertical dimension. We crash. We have terrible mechanical failures. You know, you could ease off to the side of the road. I think that is mostly why we don't have flying cars, but
no, I got to. Okay, should I tell you now? I'll tell you now.
Tell me now.
So the point is, we already do have flying cars. Okay,
airplanes.
No. We already do have flying cars. So why would you want a flying car? It's because you're in traffic, and wait. Let's back up. Okay.
I almost know where you're going here, but go ahead.
Okay, imagine the road is only 2 lanes, one in one direction, one in the other, okay? So if any one car stalls, then all cars behind it stall.
We've all been there.
So that's a one-dimensional road. So then you say to yourself, let us add a dimension to the road sideways, a second lane, okay? And that way, if one car stalls, the flow can continue, okay? So you added a dimension, and now you go from nobody moving to everybody still moving even when the one car has a problem. So you with me so far?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now, and then you can improve on that some more. You get 3 lanes, 4 lanes. For LA, they've got 6 lanes, 12-lane highways, right? The 405 going right through. All right. So now, then you get, even that's too many cars, all right? It would have been way too many for a one-dimensional street. It's now too many for 2 dimensions. So let's add a third dimension. That would be a flying car, wouldn't it? So a flying car would just elevate and use a whole other dimension to travel.
Bridges.
That way, when these cars are stuck, you'd be able to bypass.
Yes.
We already have flying cars, and it's called the subway.
The subway or a bridge.
Or a bridge. Now think about it, okay? So here I am stuck in traffic on Broadway. You go into a third dimension and get on a subway, and it bypasses all that traffic. That's a flying car.
That is figuratively speaking. It's not as good as the Jetsons. It
serves the purpose of the flying car you're still dreaming about. Now, how about bridges? So freeways don't have red lights for crossing traffic.
Right.
The crossing traffic goes over highways, or there's an underpass. So bridges and underpasses that cross highways are flying cars.
How do I get across the Verrazano Straits? I can't fly my car, but if I get on the Verrazano Bridge, I'm flying over that body of
No,
water.
no, the bridge doesn't count
Why?
because it's not. Well. Sorry. The bridges that have more than one layer, that counts. They added a third dimension.
Okay.
The George Washington
But
Bridge.
then it's still just a road. That
it's
has
still a
one
road, but as long as you have
I got
another
you.
road
All right,
that
I'm
is
agreeing.
that brings in the third dimension, it is the functional equivalent of a flying car. That's the point I'm making. So in a way, we already have them, and then if that still doesn't satisfy you, we have things called helicopters.
It doesn't,
Those
Neil.
are flying cars, and they are noisy.
They are noisy, and you know,
And like
once
you
that
said, if
Jesus
the,
pin fails,
if the blade goes out and the engines fail,
right?
it becomes a brick.
It's a brick car. Neil, well, thank you for explaining that. I want to talk more about your book. Like I said, it's very bold. I love the idea of not questioning, but people asking questions about your existence, where we came from, and looking at our past to try to determine what our future will be. And that's always fascinated me. I've often thought about our evolution as who we are as human beings on this planet. We all know it's relatively a very short period of time compared to the time that other life has been here and the planet's been in existence. But I've thought about, okay, your eye. Let's take the eyeball and the amazing machine it is to take light and interpret it into an image in your brain. And I thought, what did that? Was it our planet? Was it the perfect thing for what we live on that made that? Or was it just like, hey, this is how things see, and we hope it works on this rock? You know what I mean? It's very...
Okay. I love the fact that you have retained that level of that level of curiosity about how things work.
Very, very into the sciences, Neil.
No, I just tip my hat to the fact that you even want to ask that question. So a couple of things, a couple of ways I can address it. First of all, the eye is something extremely useful for survival, because it is the sense that can detect something from the farthest distance for your
sound,
for your safety,
smell.
For your, you can see something right to the horizon.
You got to be very close for taste, Neil.
That's true.
Very close.
It's too late at that point.
It's way too late if you taste the tiger.
That's right. So if you see it running from you from the other side,
right.
Sight,
Get away.
Sight is particularly helpful. Plus, if you're looking for food, you can look to great distances and your life is more efficient. It is so useful for survival that the principle of sight has evolved multiple times and multiple ways in the tree of life. So the fly eye,
the compound
is completely different from the human eye.
I watched the movie The Fly. We saw a bunch of Vincent Prices.
Your whole life just related to a movie scene? Is that what you got?
Single thing in my life, Neil, is a movie.
I feel it.
The fly's compound
eye. Not as many
eye.
movies as you, but I feel it. I feel that.
Thank you.
So just so you know, the fly eye makes an image completely differently from the human eye. It's different from the octopus eye. It's and bats, they have eyes, but they're not very useful. But they still see using echolocation.
Yep.
And so to see things at a distance turns out to have been so useful for your survival in the tree of life that it has shown up in many different ways. Okay, so now you can ask, how did it form? Well, you got to admit that if you had sort of a patch of skin that was light sensitive a little bit, and that light was a way for you to identify a source of warmth or a source of other animals that go there for food,
yes,
then you will that patch of sensitivity is not going to go away because it's keeping you alive.
Right.
And so any variation on that will keep you alive even better. So people who think that evolution is random and it's all by chance, no. If anything shows up that gives you a reproductive advantage, then you start at that place and variations pick up from there.
Yes.
Right? So people have done calculations. People who should have known better have done calculations about the chances of an eye evolving from scratch are 1 in a trillion, billion, trillion. No. Start with any variation gives you any advantage.
Yes.
It builds rapidly in that direction. So now I'm going to come at it the other way. And
I concur. I concur. By the way, Neil.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Although, since it's science and established science, it really doesn't matter if you concur.
Yeah, and most things I do don't matter, Neil. But it's just nice to know I concur. For me.
Okay, I'm glad you approve. Okay, this is what you're doing here.
Thank you.
Okay, you approve. So now consider this. As impressed as we are with the eyeball, in the era of science, as we now practice it, which dates back to around 1600, where you have experiments, we have machines, tools to investigate our environment with greater precision and reliability than your 5 senses do. So right around 1600, the telescope came on board, the microscope came on board, and we went in both directions, up and down, to see things that the eyes never saw before.
Right.
All right. Did you know Leeuwenhoek, who was the first to take a microscope, he perfected the compound, I think it was a compound microscope, and he had the idea that, wow, I can see tiny things. Let me get a drop of pond water. Now you say, well, it's just water. What do you, no, he knew how to ask that question.
Oh my God.
Let me put it under there. And he looks and he sees these animalcules. That's what he called them. Just doing the backstroke in the pond water.
And I bet he never swam again. Hey, look at that. There's a lot of life in those drops of water.
So just to show you, I'm just to give you a smidgen of how science works. So he wrote this up and sent it in to the Royal Society in London, and this is his sort of dispatch. All right, and by the way, he was up in the Netherlands, and they're reading his letter, and he says, I perfected this new device with lenses, and I took some pond water, and there were animals swimming in this drop of water. They wrote him back and said, ha 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 ha. How much gin were you drinking before you made this? So they thought he was pulling their leg.
Yeah.
And of course you're going to think that because the whole idea is crazy. Oh, there
Wow.
you go. Nice photo of the guy.
That is, wow, I didn't know Howard Stern invented the microscope. That's amazing.
And so what happens is, eventually, so once you build it and you give instructions for how to build it, what the folks in London did, they sent folks to his laboratory just to get a second view. So it's not just him and it's not the gin.
Right.
And yes, the animals were there. It was written up, and the rest is history. So what I'm trying to tell you is, as much as we like to praise our eyes, what we have found is that most of the universe, large and small, cannot and will not ever come to us through our eyeballs, through the sensory system of your brain-eye connection.
Right, there are limitations.
The origin of the universe comes to us through microwaves. You can't detect microwaves.
Right.
The black holes in the middle of the universe, in the middle of the galaxy, are giving off X-rays. You can't detect X-rays. Well, you can, but it's a little too late because it contaminates your organs and you die. That's a detector of sorts.
Yeah.
Okay. So the eye sees a tiny slice of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Right, the spectrum.
So given what's out there sending us signals in space and on nature, we are practically blind.
Isn't that amazing that over the years, we've dedicated a lot of our technology to expanding on our own natural senses. Like you said, with sight, we have such a thin spectrum of visible light that our eyes can see. But on either other end, there is an amazing array of things that other animals can see that we can't, that our machines can see that we can't, that over the years has been very informative to us in the medical industry and in the space industry. But other things like ears, earphones, that expands on our ability to hear things, hearing aids. We just want to it seems like we want to make ourselves better than the good Lord did, doesn't it? Isn't that part of our curiosity? What are we missing out on?
Yeah, let's improve on that model. Yeah,
Yes,
humans,
yes.
humans version 1. Let's go.
Right,
humans
right.
version 2.
Let's make it better.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, we're almost there with the genome.
Yes, yeah.
Imagine you can have kids
Amazing.
and say, "I want my kids to be piano players," and let me give them 6 fingers on each hand, and they can play more notes.
My God. I think that could be used for more nefarious things, and I think it would be knowing our human nature.
But
yeah.
what I'm just saying is the urge to complement the human body for its perfections fails when compared to what's actually going on in this world. And no, in the 14th century, they knew nothing of the bacterium that made the bubonic plague or the black.
Weren't
Black
even
Death.
washing their hands, Neil. Jesus.
So they
Filthy
started
people.
blaming the devil or
Right,
someone
right.
else's God, and so all these other explanations came in because no one had a microscope yet, and science wasn't developed to the powers that it has today, or even 400 years ago. So I'm just saying science is the expression is the manifestation of your curiosity and wonder, and I'm just saying the deepest of those questions are what were collected for this book, and it's just 10 chapters. That's all it is. And they're simple. It's like, like I said, where did it all come from? How will it all end? And is there life? How did the universe get to be the way it is? These are things, and they take whole chapters to explore. And what I try to do as a reward, there's some lighter elements in there. So I threw in some tweets.
Oh, yeah, I saw those. Yeah, great.
They're tweets that I've done over the years, and they happen to be relevant. It's just coincidence, so I put them in. They're like a biscuit along your trail.
Right.
You pick it up and eat it, pause for a minute, and then keep going. So, yeah, it's ambitious, but it's defined by your curiosity, not mine.
It is, and it's really well done in that it's an easy read, and you're not going to be thrown by a lot of heavy science talk. This is, and I've said it before. You're very good at that. How do you think our evolution as human beings, the technology we've used, and this goes back to the first time primitive man used a simple tool, separated himself from the animal world by utilizing that opposable thumb and realizing that there are things he can adapt to his own, to hunting and just survival, like you said, was the main instinct. How much of our technology do you think will play a part in who we then become? Because we talk about this idea of us binding with our computers, this artificial intelligence. What is it called? Symbiotism? No, fuck. I'm sorry. I can't remember the word. But this kind of melding of us and our technology and machines, how much of that plays a part as opposed to just natural evolution of our biology?
Yeah. So you remember the old days where people, we might be about the same age. So you go back far enough, as more machines became a part of our life, where people would push buttons to make things happen without doing the labor required.
Right.
People imagine in the future we'll just have a big index finger.
Oh, I love those. Yes, yes. In the year 1974, we will all have giant fingers.
So the idea was, if you keep using it and kneading it, it just gets bigger, and that's not how evolution works.
Right.
And so it works because you have a variation in you that gives you an incremental survival advantage for reproduction. That's really all
It all
that matters.
boils down to, right. Keep the species going.
That's all that matters. And big fingers to push buttons, it's not, unless the button becomes so big that your little finger can't press it, and then you and all your offspring die off, and the big-fingered people take over. You'd have to really sort of invent that story.
It sounds silly, but that does make sense.
So here's the thing. What we are doing to ourselves is vastly faster than anything nature would have done to us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so using CRISPR and other methods of access to the human genome, where I'd like to see that done for good use, where you can maybe put in resistance to diseases or cancers or cures, this sort of thing, or you know your genome well enough that you can create a medicine that precisely works with you and no side effects. So you're not getting a pre-existing medicine that has to go to everybody. You go to your pharmacy, they take your DNA, boom, here's this medicine. They pull it off the DNA assembly shelf, and there's the medicine for that ailment that you have right now. That would be a fascinating future utility for this.
Right.
Might it also be that we now this is where it starts getting weird, and we do this on my Star Talk podcast. We have a Star Talk Sports Edition where we've been totally deep into AI and how it will influence sports going forward. Suppose you can adjust your genome so that your muscles twitch faster, so you can run faster, or your lung capacity increases with a genetic tweak. So
I played this video game. I played that video game. It's great. You give yourself attributes. It's amazing.
Yeah. So what we don't know is whether people will be doing this to their children or doing it to them to themselves, to give themselves attributes that might already exist in total in the population, but now you're purposefully imbuing it into a chosen life form, either in utero, in vitro, or after.
But
so
with that question,
future.
but with that question, and whether we have the ability to do that or not, it's always tied to the ethical question, Neil. Well, like, is this the thing we should be doing? We have this part of us, obviously, that thinks we can do it. Should we do it? How important is that? Do you think that ever has is detrimental to how far forward we go when we put our own ethics into it?
Yeah. So my scariest thought at night is that as we progress with our great advances in science and technology, that we do not have the tandem wisdom to be the shepherds we need to be of civilization, so that we do not become the source of our own extinction. And I lay awake at night just wondering that. And so, yeah, the wisdom, the morality of it.
Yeah.
Although morality as a thing has shifted over time, so we should not think of that as absolute. We should think of it as needing to be sort of revisited over time. You just look back at what was considered the moral thing 50 years ago or 100 years ago, and you say, my gosh.
Because
that's kind of what everybody thought back then, right?
That changes over the years. You're right, yeah.
Yeah. The morality generally has a progressive bend to it. I mean, you just look at what they said about, for example, homosexuality in textbooks and official books, that this is a deviant thing, it's a brain, it's a neurological just look at what people were saying. It's like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I don't have a good answer for what our future will be.
As far as thinking if it's infringing or kind of putting a damper on our advancement, or it's a good thing that it's not letting us get ahead of ourselves.
So that's a good point. So maybe the answer here comes from science fiction. Ray Bradbury was once asked, why do you write all these stories about these apocalyptic futures? And why do you do that? Is that what you think was going to happen to us? And he said, no, I write these stories so you know to avoid them.
Yeah. A possible future that perhaps
exactly.
We should...
Do you think we don't?
Yeah.
How many AI apocalyptic stories have been streaming on TV lately?
Love 'em.
Right?
I love them.
Yeah. AI, right back to the Terminator, right?
Yep.
And so I'm going to tweet something a little later. I'll tell you first. You're the first to hear it.
Thank you.
I was thinking about the Terminator, right?
Yeah.
And there he is. One of the most famous lines. He only had 7 lines in the whole movie. One of his 7 lines were, "I'll be back."
Yeah.
And I thought about that scene, and I said, because he's in the police station, right? And he said, "I'll be back." And I realized he's the Terminator. He doesn't have to be back. He could just say, "I'll stay." And he would do just as much damage rather than going back to get in his car.
In a car.
And drive the car through the window. What a waste of resources.
When I sit up at night, like you said you do at certain times, and I think, what Neil deGrasse Tyson must be thinking about. And I'm going through quantum physics and dark matter, and it's the Terminator, Neil.
Let me ask you, are you live right now, or are we pre-taping?
No, this is live.
This is live. Okay.
It's going out right now.
I'm going to tweet that right now.
I love it. I love it.
And so.
Oh, my God. But that is, a valid point. A valid point about the Terminator. He could just have stayed there, walked behind the desk, taken the receptionist guy out, and gone for Sarah Connor.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll stay. I'll stay doesn't sound as menacing as I'll be back. Maybe that's it. Maybe James Cameron thought that isn't the line. That's why James Cameron is a writer, director, and you're a scientist, and not vice versa.
That's why I got to ask. We're friends. I'll have to confront him on that.
Yes.
The problem is I confronted him about other stuff with the movie The Titanic.
Oh, you did,
So,
the science of it.
yeah, I got him to change the night sky over the sinking Titanic because it was wrong. You didn't know about that? You didn't know about that?
I did. Yes, I did read about that. The stars weren't in the right place for that.
The stars weren't correct over the sinking ship.
Right. I did read about that. Of course you would notice that. Of course you would notice that.
All right, I'll read it to you here, and then it goes live. You ready?
Okay.
Here it is. I'm 37 years late in this revelation, but seems to me everything the Terminator did in the police station after he said, "I'll be back," he could have done had he simply said, "I will stay."
It's more pure logic and reason from Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can't believe it. Neil, I want to ask you one more thing about, and it has to do with your book, how we got here and where we're going, who we are, how we got here and where we're going. Cosmic
tweet
Queries.
sent live on your show.
That is awesome.
I rarely live tweet, and there you go. It's there. Okay.
The prospect of us going to other planets. Right now, we're looking at Mars. We're doing a lot of research with unmanned vehicles and probes and rovers. But the goal seems to be to get us to Mars. At some point, we will have that magic moment like we saw Neil Armstrong stepping out on the moon, of some human being from this planet stepping out on the surface of Mars. I absolutely believe that will happen, and not as far off as some people might believe. How adaptable are we? Because we haven't had any experience with even animals that have been around for a long time, tortoises, other reptiles and whatnot that have been on this planet. We haven't taken them and put them on another planet and said, hey, this is how this works. Do you think as beings from Earth, that we are capable of adapting even with what we need to live, oxygen and food and whatnot being brought there? Are we capable of adapting to actually live on another planet?
It's called a spacesuit. What do you want from me here? Okay, for example. Okay, all right, just listen.
I love him.
Listen.
No,
listen.
that's fine. That's the fine answer.
An egg is a spacesuit for an embryo.
That's amazing.
The embryo can't survive until it is a baby chick.
I love 2 spacesuits on a roll with bacon and ham.
So, dude, I got another commitment I got to go to.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Well, which I have to wear a tie. I didn't wear this tie for you.
No tie here. I get it. I wasn't going to wear my beer.
You're not a tie kind of guy, and I was going to be like beer drinking guy, but I can't because I'm getting an award in a few minutes, so I got to go over
well,
there.
That's very nice, Neil. And Neil, I'm a huge fan. I love when you come on the show. I am a science nerd geek, and talking to you is one of the best things I get to do on this show. Your book, Cosmic Queries, Star Talk's Guide to Who We Are, How We Got Here, and Where We're Going, available everywhere. Go get it, because Neil's been fantastic on his podcasts, in books, on TV shows. Neil, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Excellent, dude. And keep it going. And occasionally I wonder, Is he still on the air? Did they kick him off the air?
No, yeah, he's probably gone, right? And then here I am, like the cockroach. Thank you, Neil. Take care. Be well.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon,
Be
man.
good. Thanks.
There goes the great Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh my God. It's called a spacesuit. I laid out that question because I want to, my question, and I know people go like, wow, you really like go a while with the question. It's because I want to be specific. I want to be very specific in what I ask Neil to get that amazing answer back. And then I ask him this question, and he says it's called a spacesuit. The adaptability of man on another planet over the course of millennia, whether we're given food and oxygen and water and companionship and shelter, are we able to adapt it's called a spacesuit. That could have been Gino fucking Bisconti's answer. I chased Gino out to talk to Neil, and I get a Gino Bisconti answer. I love fucking Neil. What a pisser.
Rephrase that.
What's up? Oh, Jimmy Norton. There he is. Hi, pal.
Good. Hey, but I just came in and I heard you go, I love fucking Neil.
Well, not quite. I love to fucking Neil is a lot different than I love.
You had a long-winded question that went nowhere. Is that what it was?
I had a long-winded scientific question for Neil deGrasse Tyson. Very detailed because I wanted that detailed answer back. I was very curious as to if human beings will be adaptable enough, because we've never had the experience of sending any other being from this planet, whether it's a reptile or whatnot, to another planet to find out if indeed it is adaptable to live there. And we're looking at Mars, and I wanted to know, and Neil goes, yeah, it's called a spacesuit. Like,
so
no,
you basically,
I didn't mean
you basically,
that.
and hi, Will, you basically,
hi, Will.
Hi, Jim.
wanted to ask Neil a question where he'd go, this guy's kind of smart too. You were trying to get a question where Neil would look at you almost as an equal, like, wow, this guy's done his homework.
Yes, I was doing my greatest Jim Norton impression.
Believe me, no one has babbled out more self-importantly than me, only to be disappointed with a short fucking answer, which is what I deserve.
So were they.